Have you guys gone through this? I mean, okay. If not, let's continue, right? So that if you feel that if you have any query in between, you can just show me.
Hello, Srinath.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, getting a lot of background noise, Srinath.
Background nice. You guys can do one thing. Can you guys just mute up from your side? Yeah.
I do.
So that if you mute from your side, maybe because I'm sitting in my closed office room actually, it will be very pleasant here. Is it fine now? Hello. Hi. Was that Ujjwal?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You can.
I hear you clearly, but I don't think she can hear you clearly.
Okay. Hi, Ujjwal, was that you? Like, is it clear now?
No, not yet. I'm hearing a lot of noise behind.
Okay. So now is it fine now, Ujjwal?
Yeah, it is quite better than previous.
Fine.
You can
So
carry
you
on.
all can just mute up, right? If there is anything, you can just unmute and ask me the question, right? Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
sure.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, yeah. So we have seen yesterday one way of creating thread, which is extending thread class, right? Which is we have seen different things in threading. What actually we can do, how to create an infinite thread, right? How to kill a thread, right? How we actually have seen different stages of that, because these are the only 4 stages which a thread can have, right? And what is the way, and if you use something, so what will happen, and if you use something to just stop your thread, right? And what exactly we have to use for stopping a thread, because never you stop, because in real-time applications, because sometimes they stop if any memory leak happens, right? There is a problem that your whole application can crash. So there are situations where people have faced this actually. Even I have faced, in fact. Because stop, sometimes what happens is, if you are creating any objects in between, right? Like, let us say if I'm creating some if I'm using some third-party DLL or API in my Java or jar in my Java application, if I'm I'm using that in my separate thread, right? Let us say that third-party jar is actually creating some pointers to do some task, right? So if I don't defragment those things again, there'll be a problem. So never you stop. Just go for some manual logic where actually you can kill your thread upon, right, for yourself. And this can be anything. I mean, the logic can be like it should be good enough to give a condition that yes, it will break at some time, right? So that will be fine as of now. And one more thing here. So yesterday we have seen till some exception handling, right? So there is one more condition over here actually, which is nothing but let us say if any exception happens when if you take I is equal to 20, right? By chance you just took something called I is equal to 20, where you just want to close your break your thread or kill your thread at some condition where I is 20. So you just forgot to say that yes, if I is greater than or equal to 20, by chance you just gave I is equal to 20. Now if any exception happens in between when I was 20 and it goes to 21, so what happens again? If you see, if it goes one step ahead, right, again the loop will become an infinite loop, right, which you will never be able to kill upon, right? If this program is running on a server, this loop will be infinite thread, and it will be an overhead until you actually stop your application. But in server sides, right, you will never stop your applications often. So it will be like, it will take much time to actually work with stopping or starting it again, or doing different stuffs actually, right? So if you do these type of actually mistakes, right? It'll actually hit the complete performance of your application, right? So the remedy for this is, instead of actually doing these things, like instead of actually handling the breaking of loops, handle that in finally, right? Which is, so here we have inside my infinite loop, which is running on a separate thread, right? I have completely whatever block of code was there in between this infinite loop. I have exposed everything in between my try and catch, right? So just make sure that whatever you are actually handling the condition to kill your thread, you handle it in finally. That's a very good option to do anytime, right? So that whatever happens, even if exception is happening, or even if it is not happening, right, your finally is a block of code which will run for sure, right? And you are guaranteed that your program or your thread will definitely be good, right? So that's why so whatever you're writing inside a loop, even if it is a finite loop, right, doesn't matter at all. Always try to use try catch and finally. If you want to break up, do something in finally, right? That will be a good option to move ahead, right? So that was a small point which I was intended to say first, right? Now let's move on to
But
the
Srinath, in this case,
Sure.
sorry, Srinath, this is Purush.
Yeah, Purush, yeah.
Srinath, in this case,
Yeah.
it will not break unless there is exception, right?
No. Finally is a piece of code which will run every time, right? See, when your for loop is running, right? So let me just check it out. Let me run this. You'll see. See, if you remember, finally is a piece of is a block of code which will be executed even if you have a exception or if you don't have a exception, right? Only this part of exception block will be executed when there is an exception, but finally will be executed every time. So let me just run this, you can understand. Let me just say this out. Let me just say I'm in finally, right? I'm in finally. So don't go with the name of this finally. Finally is nothing like, it will execute finally, but it is the same meaning that it will execute final. But as we are iterating the whole try catch for multiple times, right, which means for every try, at the end of try, it will execute this, right? Let us see that and we'll understand much better. So let's go to CLS main. Okay, we have created a thread. Okay, fine. Println. Okay, fine. So here what we have done. So we are executing this. So whenever it comes to 20, just say.
Yeah, click on that.
Value of IEI has reached to.
Hold on a minute.
Maybe.
Hello?
Yeah. So. Okay, so value is, and we have something called I is equal to 20, and I'm just breaking it up, right? So yeah, so
yes, I'm listening to that.
Do that. Okay, let us run this once. Yeah, you can see here.
Okay, so how long is the class?
I'm sorry, someone is speaking there.
Wow.
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, hi Purush. I think.
I think it's a new participant.
Okay.
Yeah, hello?
1 sec. Let me just give him a call. 1 sec. Right. Yeah. Now you can see that, right? So every time it is in loop ending, right? It went to some finally, right? I'm in finally. So every time, let me just, if it is not clear, let me just remove all these things. I'm in child, b value, everything, right? So that we can just concentrate on I'm finally, value reached, value of I, just say value of I. Just let us print the value of I. Sorry, I here, which is I. So yeah. So I'm in finally. So before I'm in finally, let me just print one line so that we can see it clearly, right? Yeah, it looks good now. So let's b is here, and yes, we are just doing something. Fine, not a problem. Let me just take it out, clear this out, and run. Now you can see, so in each and every loop, even if anything happens, even if any exception happens, doesn't matter, it is in I'm finding value of I. I'm finding value of, right? You can see here. So when it reaches 20, right, I'm in finally value of I is 20, and the I value is overdue, which is 20, and loop got killed. So let us create an situation where we actually get something like exception in value of 20, right? Let us create one situation here, and then you will understand much better. Even if any exception happens, it will be killed like, right? So I plus plus, when I did, it will come to I. Okay, let us say if I is equal to 20, just say again b is equal to some 10 divided by 0. I'm just creating a situation where if it comes to let me just say I plus plus or I is equal to I plus what is so 20, yeah. So when it comes to exception, it says it is exception, and then it will go. So let me print this value of I. Let me print this out. I'm in try block, right?
Hello, Srinath.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry to stop you. Can you please talk a little bit loud or increase the volume from your machine? I can hardly hear you.
Okay, one sec. Okay, I think it's a full volume here. Yeah, I have a full volume. Okay, fine, not a problem. I'll just speak aloud, right?
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
Thank you.
that's okay. So is it fine now? Okay, fine. So so inside this try block, okay, we are creating a situation where there will be two exceptions, right? One exception at when I is 0, right, and another exception when I comes to 20, right? So I'm just creating a exception here so that it will come to your exception thing, and it won't execute the remaining part of your code, right? And let us see whether it is touching or finally or not, right? We'll see that. Let me just create this at the end, right? And yeah, fine. Let's go back, clear it out, and run this. Okay, it is going infinite. So it is, so when program came to I is equal to 20, right? When I was 20, it came to exception. Okay, and we said continue. Okay, that doesn't matter. It is going into infinite loop. B is something, it will come in here. Okay, but we said continue, right? Continue will again continue back to your loop again here, right? So just say, so I want to do some try catch here. Okay, you don't have to do continue here, because anyways it will continue even if you don't use continue here, right? So it will come to your finally, and finally will actually continue your loop, and it continues your loop, and it will again break. Yeah, let's go back and stop this. Stop, and let me run this again. Close this, go back and run this. Oh, it is again going to infinite loop. Is it going to infinite loop again? Let me just run it once and kill it immediately. Kill it up. Okay. Let me increase the lines of code here. Lines of code. Run this, close it up, and go back and see. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 19. Yeah, I'm in finally. Divide by 0. Okay, it became okay when an exception happened, right? It came to exception and it went to and finally, of I was 21. So okay, we did something in, oh shit, sorry guys, I'm just incrementing. You should not do this, right? Because if I increment again, what happens? We are actually incrementing, we are skipping the I, right? So you can just not about, yeah, sorry for that. And I is equal to 0. It's saying I continues to 0. Okay, come back here. Okay, let me just let us do one thing. Let us debug this once. Let's see so you guys can see any problem here? Maybe you can just give some suggestion.
I think, yeah, I think if you scroll down for a second, Srinath.
Yeah.
What are you trying to on purpose? Are you trying to divide by 0 on purpose? Because I see you have an if statement. If I is equal to 20, B equals 10 divided by 0. Are you trying to do this on purpose? Or?
Yeah. Because I'm trying to do this purposefully, because I want to create a situation where I want to actually, make it. Whenever it comes to 20, right? I'm actually killing. I mean, I'm creating an exception so that it will come here, and even if exception is happening, I want to kill the thread, right? So that's my plan actually.
Okay.
Over here, yeah. Let me just move ahead. Okay, so first time exception happened. Okay, let me just so this is the first time exception happened, and I'm printing my I value, and I is 20 or one line. Exception happened. Okay, I understood the problem. So let us just skip this situation, right? And yeah, let me run this. Okay, let me just run this. I'll explain you what exactly happened. Let me just check whether it is working now. It will work now. Yeah. So yeah, it worked now. So see, at 20 actually we got an exception. It says loop exception, which is divided by 0, right? And so even if exception happened, but my thread got killed at 20, right? Now what was happening here is, let me just explain you. What was happening here is, let me just do Control Z here. Yeah. So here an exception was happening here. When an exception happens here, which means I'm doing I++, right? But when exception happens here, it directly went to your cache, and in cache I'm not doing I++, right? Logic issue. But if I do I++ here, it will never get killed, because whenever exception happens here, it will move to I20 to 21. Again here is your deadlock again, right? So even if you skip anything, the loop will never move. Now what to do here, right? You can see the situation here, but I want to handle both the things. I want to actually divide by I here, and I want to do both the things. But when I skip this, it ran fine. You can see here, when I skip this, if I run this, yeah. Okay, sorry. When I skip something like I++, when I say Control Z, yeah. When I skip this part and I do I++, right? Which means, so for my convenience, I just skipped something called B is equal to A by I, and so first time I'm not getting any exception, so that's why I'm just incrementing. So now it will run fine. You can see here it ran fine till 20, right? But here, let us say I want my B is equal to I or A divided by I to be there. I want both of them. I want to handle both the exceptions. So what to do now? Now here, if you know that so some part of your code is sensitive, so as we have discussed, handle your exception at that point. Right? I'll handle my exception at this point. If I'm getting an exception here, I don't want to touch any of my other code. I'll just say here I++, right, and just say continue, right, and I'll just print sys out or sys error, right, I just say inner exception, okay, inner exception, and just print your e.getMessage. So now we'll just see whether it is fine or not. So we took A and B, right? and we know that an exception can happen here, so we just when an exception happens, we just did I plus plus so that it will move from I. Initially I was 0, right? Without incrementing I, you'll never reach to a permissible or a peak level where actually you can break your thread, right? And then we just did I plus plus and we have some exception handle. I continue. Now my I became 1, right? Now it will run fine. So again, when it comes to 20, it will come here. Okay, I is 20 and exception happens, it will directly hit this one. Okay, whenever it hits here, it doesn't matter because my I is 20 again, right? It will come to this place and yeah. So it seems good now. Let's go back and run. Yeah, you can see it happened we got 2 exceptions actually, which is okay. Anyways, it got printed here because our thread was so fast that the printing happened at the end. Not to worry. Inner exception divided by 0, loop exception, right? We handled both the cases, but we have seen that each and everything got executed, right? And finally was executed for sure even if exception happened or not, and we got a value. At 20 it skipped. Fine. So that is how we have handled both the cases. So it's always better to use nested try catches, because if you use one big try catch, right, that's and if you are creating situation where exception happens in different parts of your code, right, again it's some. But make sure whatever you're incrementing or decrementing or something you're doing for actually kill your thread is being handled in that particular thing, right? Or if you don't want to handle in catch, you can also do something called finally here, right? Finally here, and just say I plus plus, and you can actually skip this up and just say I plus plus, right? Because so what happens here in this case, even if any exception happens here or not, right, your I plus plus will be executed for sure, right? Where actually we are trying to do some exception handling here itself. Fine guys, so this is what is something which is by extending your thread. We have seen creating a multiple threads, more than one threads, and actually executing them, right? Now if you have understood this, right, so next one which is something called implementing, right? Implementing runnable interface is again the same. Right, so under this implement runnable interface,
Srinath, I have one question.
yeah, sure.
So is there any situation like we can use only one finally for one try and catch, or in a one class we can use only one finally or 2 finalies? How is there any condition like that?
There will never be a condition where you can have multiple finalies. For one try there will be only one finally.
Okay, so for one try we can use multiple catch clauses.
Yeah, I can have multiple
So-
catches for, yes, correct. Only catch class can be multiple, right? But you cannot have multiple finalies actually. Yeah,
Okay.
you can have this. This is acceptable. Fine. Yeah, this part of block is acceptable. But if I try to write finally again, just check it out. See, the option itself is not there. Or if I forcefully write it out, it will just it won't even go there actually, right? Because this is something which is not reachable code, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Yep. Fine.
Fine. Now. So let me just do some set here for you. Yeah. So okay. So here in case of your implement runnable interface, right? So here what we are doing is we are actually implementing our we are not touching anything on class, but we just want to implement an interface which is runnable interface, right? Again here there are few steps, right? Which is first step is create a class A, right, or some class, and it implements runnable, right? It implements runnable, and then so once it is done, then you have to create again your run method inside, because again it have got the same run method and same start methods inside this runnable, right? And so you have to override this again, and then so what you have to do is, here you have to do two things. One step will increase in runnable, right? Which is you have to create instance of A, which is a class in our main class, right? And when this instance of A is printed, then provide this instance to thread constructor, right? So once you give this to thread constructor, and then what we do is we just start the thread with start. Now why do we need to give this only using constructor? So what does this step mean? We have already seen this step even here. So this step doesn't, so this is a step actually, the same thing we have used. So when we actually extended our thread class with thread, right, you don't have to actually create a separate you can create, but you can directly say thread t1 is equal to this, right? Is equal to this. Thread t1 is equal to this, and you can just skip the remaining part of it, right? This is possible because this is a direct child of a thread. Now let us see. Let me just remove this extend thread and just say implements, right? Runnable. Again, this runnable class is java.lang package runnable, right? Now you can see runnable is an interface here, right? Runnable is an interface. So because in interface there will be all the methods will be abstract methods, and sorry, and an abstract method will not have a definition or a body for that method, right? So which means you cannot say super.run. Why? Because that is an abstract method, and you cannot create an instance of a interface, and also you cannot call a method of an interface, right? So that's why it won't allow you to call the super.run. But only thing what it does is, if you don't, let me just remove this for some time. Now let us write this. Let me write a new class for runnable. Okay, now this is given because we have let me just say thread, go to thread again and just say extends here, right? So that I just want to keep this as it is, right? Let me just create a separate class for runnable. CLS runnable sam or runnable example ex. Yeah, so this runnable ex, let's say implements your runnable here, right? So now if once you implement, right, so it will throw error. So why it is throwing error? Because we haven't implemented the methods, abstract methods of this. If you can go here, you can see. So if you should implement the abstract methods. So and this runnable contains only one method, which is run and start internally, right? But the start again is a method which is again runnable is inheriting again inside a thread class, right? Now let us just click on this add implement. You can see that, right? And just say type catch here and just give again it's the same here. I'll give some 20, right? So each and everything will be same, right? This is a sort of child, right? And the same story here, right? Let me just move this, yeah. So this time what we'll do, we'll just say new, which is CLS and variable ex obj is equal to new another, right? We have created that, and now we have to assign thread t1 is equal to thread of new thread of, you can see you can actually give an argument as a runnable class, because our runnable ex is nothing but a child of runnable, right? You can actually give that to here. Let me just give obj, and so here I will never be able to do this, which is if you try to do this, right, it will throw error because it is not a child of a thread. Mismatch, cannot convert from runnable to, because this is a direct child of runnable, that's it, and nothing is. But only thing is your thread can actually take an object of a runnable to here. So now why it is taking a runnable object in a thread class is, whenever we start this thread t1.start, right, internally it will create a process and it will try to access one of the run method. So which run method will be accessed? This class run method, where we are providing an object to this thread, right? So immediately what it does is it will trigger this run. So whatever we are doing will be executed from here, right? Let's just say child, so that we will just create a pattern so that you can see some difference of right. Now it's a same thing again, right? Let me run this. Yeah, you can see both the things ran. So I'm in child, I'm in parent, right? Because there is a sleep in parent, right? So that's why it just printed once and then it continued, right? When it says main thread got killed, and anyways is getting killed anyways, right? So that is how we can. Now let's get back to this thread class, right? So whatever we have done, so let us do it by implementing that. Implements your runner, right? So now let's create an object of that, or you can directly give of something called new CLS thread, right? Directly give CLS thread. Oh, I'm sorry, we are now making it as a, so you can just say CLS thread obj is equal to new, because now your thread CLS thread is nothing but it is implementing our runnable. So you cannot create a direct object and assign it to thread, right? You just have to create a thread separately and give that object to the constructor of the thread, right? Now let us run this. Yeah, you can see that, yeah, everything got executed as it is. Yeah, we got one exception here, and okay, anyways we are not printing the above exception, and it prints I'm in parent, and since there was a sleep in between parent, it just printed here, right? Now it will be the same. The only difference is it all depends on your requirement when to choose extends thread and when to choose implement runnable, right? Because you can see I can actually implement so many other interfaces into it. Let me just say action, some let me just say more than one, right? You can actually have more than right. I can actually implement any number of interfaces. Well, anyways, don't think about this, because this is getting error, because I am implementing my classes but I am not overriding. If you want, you can override, but only way is you can implement any number of your interfaces. So that's why if you have many classes where in one class you want to actually make this child of many other interfaces, right? So you can go for implements. But if you feel that you have to make this class only a thread and not to use as a different method, right, then a different business functionality, then only go for extends thread, right? But it is always better to implement runnable, make it implement runnable. But even if you are making implement, right, don't go for other interface or other implementing other interfaces, right? Because tomorrow, let us say if you want to change some functionality of this, right, again your remaining things will hinder, right? If you feel that you want to give the same class name and give the different functionalities by implementing different interfaces, then you can go for this. It all depends on what actually is your requirement for this, right? Yeah, so that is what is runnable, and that is how we actually extend a thread class, and that is how we actually implement a runnable class. And whatever we can do in thread class, right, this completely same, everything will be same again in runnable class, right? Only difference is that we have to create a separate object of your runnable class, because it is not a child of direct thread class, right? And then give that object to thread. And why we are giving that object to thread is, so whenever we call a start method of your thread, right, whenever you call a start method of a thread like t1.start, so the start method which will actually create a separate process, and finally it will try to call the run method. Which run method will be called? It will access this T1's obj, right? So this obj is pointing to this CLS thread. The CLS thread is nothing but your runnable class, implemented runnable interface class, right? Now it will run here. So that is how we actually go for two different things, which is extending a thread and implementing a interface. So any doubts here? Yeah, fine then. So so this is a way how we actually create multiple threads, and it again it is the same even if you go for creating multiple things again, right? We have thread 2, right? Again you can make it implements runnable, again it will work in the same way. You just have to create that thread value in any of this class or your main class, right? It will be same. The process of execution will be same. There is no, because your JVM will actually, whenever you actually create a thread class using runnable or thread, doesn't matter at all. It will take everything in the same way, right? There won't be any change over there, right?
Quick question.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, is it common to write multiple threads in the same class, or is it common to have threads in separate classes?
I didn't get your question, Ron. Can you just repeat that?
Like, is it common to write multiple threads in the same class?
Okay.
Or is it good practice to write them in separate classes?
Okay. So no. It is like see, creating a multiple threads is something which comes with your requirement, right? Now let us say you want to handle all the threads in one class, you can do that. So creating a thread in one class or creating a thread in different other classes, everything is same. It doesn't matter like where you are creating, because wherever you are creating, you are actually loading the same CPU memory process to each and every thread using your JVM, right? So it doesn't matter where you are creating, but it will be so it all depends on a requirement. Let us say you are in a trading, let us say, right? You are in a trading where buy stocks and sell stocks are there, right? Where there is a supply and demand. Supply and demand are two different threads which should be run on from your base class, right? You can actually call those two threads in one class or two different classes, doesn't matter at all. But only underlying thing is you have to run a demand thread and a supply thread, where demand and supply will be interacting, and you will get a deal over there, right? Anything is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. So that is what it is. So let's move on and see the internal. There are two things actually which is internal to JVM. Like, it all depends on the thread and the way you are creating a thread, and internally based on the load of CPU, like how CPU is loaded by other applications, that your JVM will work in two ways. First way is the primitive way, right? And the second way is a cooperative way. Right? Yeah. So what is a primitive way and a cooperative way? Yeah, anyways, you can't define these two in actually your programming, but based on the CPU load going on when you create multiple threads, right, it will check whether the CPU is capable of handling all these things, right? If everything goes fine, it will go in one way, and if there is a issue with CPU memory, and it will choose some other ways, right? Now let's see what are these two ways. So these two, primitive way is nothing but, so whatever thread you create, right, whatever thread, let us say you have created some 3 threads, T1, T2 and T3, right? So if you give so whenever you load these threads into your JVM, right, so JVM will share the CPU process across these threads. Okay, so again, if you have more than 3 threads, so 4th, 5th, 6th, so if it is increasing, what happens is your JVM will actually queue up all these threads, right? It will queue up all these threads and it will randomly pick for operation, right? And how does it pick randomly is based on the highest priority it will pick. But here primitive way, for sure it will give you the equally CPU memory for all these 3, right? Even if it is a priority of 5 or 10 or 1, doesn't matter, it will give some time to run this up, which is a primitive way. And cooperative way is something, let us say again you have some 3 threads right here, and T1 thread is of 10 priority and T2 thread is of some 8 priority, right? And your T3 thread is some, let us say, 2 priority. Now what happens in cooperative way, right, is like when it,
So Srinath,
yeah,
I have one question.
sure,
So who decides that priority?
yeah,
First priority.
yeah.
Hello?
Srinath,
yeah, hello,
voice is breaking.
okay, is it fine now?
Hello?
Yeah, is it fine now? Hello, hi team, is it fine now?
I'll just stop this and come back again.
Yeah, for me it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, for me it's fine.
Okay, fine.
So who decides the thread priority?
See, this third priority, we can decide the third priority, and if you don't give any third priority, right, by default it will be the priority of 5, right? So once these 2 are done, I'll explain you the priority, because we have to go for priority also, right? I haven't coded here for priority, right? Actually, as you have seen set name, right, you can just say T1 dot set priority, right? You have set priority, and if you give some 8, right, so what happens is it will take the priority of it. And you can also
Okay,
print,
so we are the one who decides the priority. Okay.
we are the one who decides the priority. And if you don't give any priority, right, so let me just
It's a
print
by
this.
default 5.
Exactly, right? Let me just print this. If you want to get the priority, you can just say get priority, right? It will get you the priority and it will set you priority. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the priority of my main thread here, and I'm just setting the highest priority for my another thread, right? But basically unless you feel that this thread is so important that it should run on a higher CPU memory, right, don't set your priority to higher levels. It's very dangerous. Why it is dangerous is once you set your priority to higher level, right, your JVM will concentrate more on that class, right? And let us say you are going out of your CPU memory, so at that point of time you cannot help other threads to move on. So unless you feel that this, whatever happens, this class or whatever logic you are writing in this thread should run at first priority, then you can go for this priority, right? Or you can just say run this in a normal priority. But if you can see in .NET, right, it will be right, priority will be in 3 steps. You can't give this priority. You can just say normal priority or high priority, right, or medium priority, right? So even these things you can see in here. So when I open this process, right, you can see this set priority. Can you see this? So this is a process priority. So this is Windows process priorities. Like let us say I have my Eclipse here. Let me go to process, and this is my process, right? Java w.exe. Now each and every process will be running in normal priority, right? You can see here, you can actually in your Windows machine yourself, you can actually increase your priority. If I say high priority, right, what happens is our operating system, there is some, can you just mute up? You just mute up, let me explain, right, Ujjwal?
Yep.
Yeah, there is some disturbance over here. Yeah, thank you. So when you set your priority here, right, who is taking care of everything in this is your operating system in this case, right? When I click on high, which means I want to give more CPU space. You can see here memory, right? This is the memory I'm talking about, CPU memory, right? CPU memory. So high memory will be allocated to that. So when I actually make it high, which means I'm actually moving on with a high priority. In the same way, even your application here, which is set priority of 0 to something, right? It acts on the same thing. But who is doing a CPU allocation, or who is talking to operating system to make it high priority is, in this case, is our JVM, right? But actually you can actually set priority here. But as we have coded small things, right? You can see our threads are very light. Whatever logic we have written is a bit not even medium. It's very simple code we have written. But in real time, you won't find threads this simple. If you are creating a thread separately, which means it will have a very, very great importance. Right? Unless you have got a importance, you won't create multiple threads, right? Because multiple executions will eat up more CPU usage. Eating up more CPU usage is nothing but you are actually making your processor more busy. When you are actually making your more processor busy, which means power consumption will be more, and it is very costly, right? So it goes in that way when it comes to real time, right? And basically, to answer your question, yes, we actually decide the priority. If you don't set the priority, by default it will be 5, fine. And based on that priority, internally your JVM will decide which way to go. So how it decides it? It decides completely on something called CPU current memory usage, right? So once it feels that your CPU is completely held up with something, it will go to cooperative way. And what is cooperative way is, so whatever is of high priority, right? Whatever is of highest priority, it will only take that thread and it will run. It won't even share the CPU memory to remaining things. Now, when this thread gets complete, then it will go to the next priority one, and the same way. That is the first case. Second case, let us say in between this thread went to some sleep for some 100 milliseconds, let us say, right? So when this thread goes to sleep in 100 milliseconds, which means so this thread is sleeping, at that point of time your CPU is free, right? When that CPU, the small memory is free, then what happens? Your JVM will actually take T2 and process that, and this will be processed only till 100 milliseconds only, and again it will get back to T1, right? Because each and every time whenever it goes to, let us say 1000, let us say this is going to some again 50 millisecond sleep, right? Which means this thread will be there. When it goes to 1000 millisecond sleep, it will come here. Until this 1000 is completed, this will be running. Now again what happened? So we are actually giving again a 50 millisecond sleep. Again it will go to T3. It will again run for 50 milliseconds. It will get back here, go here, get back here. So until 1000 is completed, so other threads will be running based on your sleep. And once this 1000 milliseconds is complete, again it will come back to your T1. So this is how your cooperative way works, right? So that is what is like. It all depends on what is the priority of your thread. First thing, whether it is the highest priority or equal priority. Even if it is equal priority, let us say if it is equal priority, 5 and 5 and 5. So what happens in this case? Again it will take the first come first serve, right? Whatever thread is first share occurred, right? It will take, but anyways in cooperative way also, it will take up the threads which are of a same priority, right? It will queue up, but again sometimes it will share the process for the same priority things. But even in that case, if your CPU memory is not available that much, again it will take up the first arrived thread, right? So that is how we actually give the priorities for this, and this is how it works. And this works internally actually, right? So it all depends on the CPU memory usage, and this CPU memory usage again depends on the resources you are providing for your server. If your server is a supercomputer or super server which have got multiple, like you have got 4 quad core processors and some 32 GB of RAM, right? And let us say you have embedded some 16 CPU processors into that, right? Which is like it will work in some higher faster manner, so it will always go to some primitive way of running, right? So your JVM will decide based on the priority or something you are actually providing to that, right? So these are it works internally. And here, when even if I am assigning some priority 8, right, you can see here, let me just run this, right, run this up. Yeah, you cannot see any much. Let me just see here, can you see 5 here? So this 5 is nothing but I'm just printing my default priority, just say main thread priority. Run this up again, sorry. Yeah, it ran the same way, and you can see where is that? Yeah, main thread priority is 5 because we are not setting any priority. Even if you set your priority, right, current thread priority, let me just say thread dot current thread dot set priority. You can set priority, right, to let us say 10, right, which means this thread will run in a high priority. Now when you try to print it out, it will print some 10 here, right? Let me just run it. Yeah, you will see that your parent, your max priority became 10. Anyways, it is running somewhere, printing somewhere else, because this is parallel execution, right? You will not, so we can't actually expect it to print at the first step, right, because it is a parallel execution and we started some other thread, and these two threads are running in parallel, right? So you can't expect everything. Like you can see here, exception printed at last. Why? Because there are some processing being done which is parallelly going on, right? So in your console we can see which is happening. It is printing whenever it actually gets a console time, right? So that is how you see, and we have got some priority of main as a latest priority, which is 10, right? So that is how we actually create a priorities and set priority, right? And actually this is how your CPU runs your threads when it comes to usage of your thread, right? So it all depends on our current CPU. So that's why in real time. Okay, someone have got any question here? Okay, Andy. Okay, so so in real time, right, obviously you'll be using much better resources, right, and you can go for priorities, but only set priority even if it is required, because if you have some 10 threads which are running on high priority like 8 or 10, so what happens is it will held up your CPU memory as so much of CPU memory, so that even your garbage collector will never get up to your processing actually. So garbage collector is again a separate thread in JVM of priority 1, right? So that's how your garbage collector will always run in a lowest priority, which is first priority. That's how even if you do something called garbage collector cleanup manually, right, there is no guarantee that it will be cleared, but only thing is there should be even space for your garbage collector to clean up all your dereferenced objects whenever a method or a class is being killed, right? So that's how even you can keep these things in mind, right? So if everything is clear, let's wind up here, right, and we'll meet tomorrow to learn some more concepts in multi-threading, right? We'll just move on with what actually can be done on this multi-threading. Like we have 2 threads which are exclusive to each and every, and tomorrow we'll see how to actually communicate between multiple threads, right? How we can do the communication between these threads, right? And what are different thread types, right? Which is like daemon thread and all, and we'll see the situation of deadlock situation, how the deadlock situation happens. But anyways, deadlock situation we'll write a program when we'll just see the use case for deadlock situation where actually it can happen, right? So okay, let me just wind up. We can just go through these ones, right? If you have any queries, we'll meet up tomorrow. Fine.
Hi, Srinath. Just a quick question.
Sure.
Srinath?
Yeah, sure. Please go on.
I think yesterday we did you record the yesterday session? We have only 30 minutes of recorded session.
Yeah, because I started it late, but anyways, I'll provide you the complete one. I think Purushottam have to.
No.
Yeah, I'll.
Okay.
I shared the updated one which will have everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
Not
Could
to
you
worry.
send that to me as well? That would be great.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I get that as well?
I'll do that. Purushottam, can you just give me
yeah, I
yesterday?
just did, Srinath.
Okay,
I just
done.
did after.
No issues. So guys, don't worry. Yeah, I do remember that. Yesterday, so I had complete class in my mind and forgot to. But anyways, I'll provide that to you, right? Not to worry.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any
And-
questions?
Srinath, can you add my email ID also in your loop because I'm not getting any email.
Email. Which email? Purushottam.
I mean, you are sending some recorded session to everyone, right? I don't get that.
Okay. So the same. So whatever you are giving, right? Record sessions, right? The same recording session I'm actually sharing with my Dropbox. Anyways, I'll add your email ID, right? That is not a problem.
Yeah.
I'll just.
I just sent it.
Yeah, sure. You can just ping me. Yeah, I'll add this up. Not a problem, right? I'll share this with you. Not a problem. Fine. So that you can also share this with others, right? So any more doubts here?
Srinath,
Yeah.
are there any PDF documents or anything that you have sent previously? I don't know, I'm just...
I'm sorry. PDF.
any documents or anything that you have sent, or everything is in the Dropbox itself?
I haven't sent. I hope I haven't sent anything.
Okay.
Everything will be in
Okay,
Dropbox
okay,
itself.
okay.
Yeah. So like, who is
Okay.
this? I just
This is Jomi.
Jomi, right? No, everything
Yeah.
will be in Dropbox, right? So whatever we are going, so even I'll be placing these class files, right? I'll be placing these project files, these class files in the same Dropbox where we have something called code samples, right? You can find all these things there. And one more thing, guys, I just forgot to give this. So daily just copy the files and keep it in your local, right? Every day what I do is I replace these files. So yesterday whatever we wrote in this thread class, right, it's different today, right? Because we deleted something and copied the new one. I mean, we wrote something new, right? So that daily what you can do is, so video is okay, you can copy video anytime, but only question is with your code samples, right? Every day just keep the code samples with the date in your right. I'm just overwriting each and every class, right? Or anyways, you have a video with you guys, so that you can you can, whenever you want, you can just go through that. Fine then, Parth, we'll see you tomorrow class, and we'll just learn something more, right?
Okay, good. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, Ram.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, Andy, I'll speak to you now. I will speak in yeah.